a new bathroom reno for you guys. And in a minute or so, we're going to show you all about it. We call it the London bathroom.
All right, so when we first looked at the Château, this was probably the ugliest room in the house. Would you say?
Yeah, it was definitely a mess. There was all the plaster was breaking on the walls and things were peeling, and there was this crazy cement shower.
Leaking toilet.
Yeah, everything was a mess for sure.
I really didn't like the shower. It's two brick walls, and they had separated from the house, so there was big gaps. It was dirty,
falling off the wall.
We didn't even video it a lot of the time, and that's why you have such a grainy shot here looking at the video. So we knew we wanted to work on it. Now, fortunately for us, we had some friends join us.
We did. So we had a work week last summer, and we had some friends who were handy come out from Slovenia, and they started working on bits and pieces. They worked on taking out the shower walls, which were completely all cement, and cinder blocks, which was quite the job.
Yeah, Johnny and Brooke and their daughter too. And they worked so hard. They were, and a lot of times Johnny was in here quite a bit with the tiling and stuff. And then you see also Ellie and Brooke taking it. That's a big, heavy cement wall. So man, those guys are strong.
They were very heavy.
Those ladies are strong.
There was also old tile to remove and strips of wallpaper liner that was still left on the wall to rip off. So there was a lot of prep to happen in this space, and I was thrilled to have some extra hands to get that started along.
Yeah, they got us a ton of the way there. There they are cleaning up a little bit. Then Johnny started the subways, and look at that wall, by the way. It's a tough room to work in. Also, they've lived in Europe for a while, and so they understand some of this stuff. Like he was able to take the radiator off and the sink off, and the what else?
The
toilet, right. So that was nice because I wasn't exactly sure how or if you could do that.
Yeah, it was super helpful.
Yeah.
And then he started to work. I had product already on site, so he started to work on some subway tile for us. It was awesome.
Yeah, they did a real careful job. And by the way, tough because the room is not square. The house is settled. So even you see on the bottom right, there's a little bit of gap there. That's because those tiles all had to be trimmed for him to stay level. Also, you see those sort of two vertical beams. The one on the right kind of protrudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't know, maybe half an inch or a centimeter or two, kind of in towards the room. So it's a challenge.
A little.
But he got it done. It was also cool. You could see it when you're coming up to the Château. You look through the window and see those subways, which that was the most encouraging thing for me early on.
Every time we have done some kind of project and I can see some things through the window, I'm like, oh, look, it looks different. We can see things.
Joy. Yes. So this was all last summer, and at the end of the summer, we certainly didn't finish everything, and we knew that we were this is where we were. The room was cleared off. You can see how badly the wall, was gashed.
Yeah, well, for sure. It was basically a demo.
Yeah, it really was a true demo.
Yeah.
But we did have a good head start with those two subway tiled walls.
Yeah.
So we decided to come back in December and keep going on it. And the first job that was up was tiling. So the first thing I did was get some thin set and just flatten out the wall so I could have something to put on. Because you wanted, and this is a very good idea, to put a mosaic on the back.
I did. So we were going with this whole sort of black and white scheme overall for the main envelope of the room, and then adding in a few other colors later. So the tile scheme was definitely all black and white, and I just thought it would be fun to do something interesting on the back wall of the shower because I knew we'd have all three walls in glass, and you'd be able to see whatever it was that we put back there.
So you just bought mosaics and then popped out hex mosaics.
Hex tile,
and popped out some of them.
I did. So before I could get on the wall, I had to do all of this on the floor. And it took a little while, actually, to try to figure out size of letters. Yeah, what font, all of that kind of stuff.
You say there's a mistake there somewhere.
Yeah,
Is there two mistakes right there?
I think so.
Can anyone see them? Yeah.
He fixed them before we were done.
Yeah, you found it.
But
Leslie catches everything.
Indeed. So anyway, so I think that was a fun sort of addition to make it feel kind of more custom.
Yeah.
Instead of just sort of a generic tile backsplash.
Yeah, and by the way, those mosaics, they're tricky to keep flat because, of course, when the wall is so uneven, you want to keep them level. And so we put those little plastic backers behind, which helped a lot, but still it was tricky.
It did help.
You know,
Yeah,
it's definitely not like a manufactured home or something. You can tell it's been around for a while.
Tricky with a bumpy wall, no question.
But we made good progress, and of course there's lots of things to do, like pull out those little plastic things, and you got to clean your grout lines. Clearly, I probably could have done a nicer job of cleaning off my tiles. And, after having tiled for a while, I always sort of forget that you need it. How much you clear that stuff off really makes a difference.
It does, yeah.
Like for example, the shower base. Whoops. But it came off perfectly.
It does come off.
But it is a pain.
Yeah.
So there we are. Here we are. I think with all the tiles on.
Yeah.
And we're ready to go for wallpaper. Now here, we had one of those I told you so moments.
Oh.
One of the two of us got to say I told you so, who will remain nameless. But one of us thought that we should, do some preparation on the walls because they're so bumpy. And the other one of us thought, why bother? Let's just get it up there. Have you guessed yet? Which, look at that beautiful, cleaned up nice.
But you know what? We gave it a go.
Oh, man. So, in December, again, it's cold and you're working with tiles. Not a real fun job. I thought we'd get it up there. Oh, also, we tried to decide what to do with these pipes. And we thought about boxing them in.
Yeah, so when they did this room before, they had definitely sprayed them all black with the wallpaper around it. And I just thought that was a brilliant idea. So we basically did it again.
Did that. And then look at your beautiful painting on the trim.
Yeah, we painted out all the trim again.
That was a great day. And the door.
On the door,
looks so good. Yeah, it looks so good live.
And the ceiling.
Yeah, I did the ceiling because you find it hard to be up there.
Yeah.
And so, and the ceiling's a mess, but it all kind of disappears, so it's not a problem.
That's the joy of it.
All right, so the wallpaper starts going up. And honestly, guys, there's a couple jobs that I just can't do without keeping my language intact. One of them is putting up Christmas trees, and the other is wallpaper. And I was swearing mad, as the Mennonites would say. Swearing mad. And then so I was to the point where I was like ready to give up on life. And you came in to rescue me, to try to rescue me. And it was a valiant effort, but look at that. Yeah. Have you ever seen a worse wallpaper job in your life? No. I haven't.
It's just, you know what, it wasn't just putting up the wallpaper. It was the base itself was just too much of a mess for this paper to handle. It's not like a super thick paper. It's a normal wallpaper.
Wow. We did.
Plus, you were trying to do this on a ladder, and I wasn't at the base of it because you wanted to try to do this yourself, and so you really need two people to try to keep. And these walls are very tall, guys. Like
15 feet, 14 feet.
So it's actually quite tricky when you have panels of wallpaper that long.
So we went back and we started doing it right. We sanded the walls and we filled them, and then we sanded again. You can see they're already starting to look flatter. This was a huge good move. We pulled in the scaffolding, which means you have two hands to work with, and then it was me at the top and Leslie at the bottom, and so that was a game changer.
It helped a lot.
And then the other great idea you had was to use liner paper.
Yeah, which was pretty normal thing when you have bad walls to put liner paper. Now, clearly, if we had our European game on, we would already know how to plaster skim coat walls really good.
But
that isn't in our skill set at this point yet. And clearly that would have made even a bigger difference. But
and booking too. Booking is important. See, I did the other room and it went so great, but apparently it was vinyl wallpaper, which was a different game altogether. And so I thought it was going to go great, but it was terrible. Here we have the second go at it. So much better.
Yeah.
Game changer. Yeah. It just looks like $1 million now. It's still, I mean, you can still tell the wall is.
The wall's still not perfect.
It's not a show home in America with brand new.
No. But you know what? It's good. It'll be fine. And it's great.
There's enough going on in the room too.
Oh, there is. It'll be fine.
If there's, it's kind of like you always say, like when you have real potatoes, it's nice to sometimes have a little bit of a lump because it's a real potato instead of a mix or whatever. This is definitely a real Château. It's 165 years old. And gravity's had its way with it.
Yeah.
So got the beautiful wallpaper up. That was a huge day, and it was time to start putting the fixtures back together. The first one was the sink, and it actually went quite well until I noticed a few hours later.
A leak.
Yeah, it looks like there's some water at the bottom. I'm like, how could that be? Because I looked at every single connection, and there looked like there was no leaks. So I thought, even the second day I came back to see if it still was there. Sure enough, it was. And I wasn't sure if it was just sort of the floor that was wet residually, because of course there's lots of water when you're doing this stuff, or if it was new. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to wait. Also, when I was down there, I heard a ticking noise, and so I started getting curious, and I looked down there, and I don't even know, when I looked down, I didn't even know where that was. I'm like, where in the house is this?
Yeah,
Which
I don't know.
sounds crazy because you think it's only a 3-dimensional space. I mean, and I think it turns out, I think they put in a false wall above the powder
Ceiling.
rooms on the main.
False
False
ceiling.
ceiling. And so I think there's about 6 or 8 feet of empty dead space there. So good news, came back the next day, and indeed the leak was shrinking. So we took it apart once and we put new gaskets in, and all good.
But you know what that says to me?
What?
Potential for the powder room.
How do you mean? What do you mean?
I can't wait to renovate the powder room.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like we have some ceiling height to work with.
Oh, if we need it. Yeah.
Anyways,
And you found this thing.
I did. I found a stone that basically helps take away hard calcium deposits and other such things with metals and porcelain.
And it looks great. Then we came to the toilet. Now, the toilet was sort of a half-year project, or maybe even a full year, because it had 3 or 4 leaks. But we thought about putting in a new one. You know, a new one would be easier. It's only $150 maybe, and it's comfortable.
For just a normal kind, yes. I had thought about replacing the whole British toilet.
Oh yeah,
kind
that's
of
like
vibe.
800, 1,000.
Yeah, it was over 1,000.
Yeah, so we're not
we
doing
didn't
that.
really want to do that at this point.
So we had so many leaks. Here you see how the original system was. You had this big heavy weight that sits down on this plastic thing. It's all kind of gravity. You got this lever. You pull down the lever, it lifts up the thing. Water shoots out. So you see the plastics there. And on the bottom of the big metal weight, you're going to see a rubber gasket. But you can see the condition of the rubber gasket. Yeah, that was not sealing water. So I took that off, and I tried really hard to find a couple that would match, something that would we could not get a seal. And so finally we just said, let's just cut the whole thing out and put in a modern inset.
Yeah, it's great.
And so this actually took a little bit of creativity because obviously the hole is completely different size. Not only that, this old tank is really small, so I had to kind of get the knife out and cut the piece to fit. As well as cutting the basin. I spent about 90 minutes grinding metal.
You say it's small, but the amount of water that comes out of this thing when it flushes is impressive.
I think it's the gravity that it's really quite something. By the way, we've gone to calling the toilet the ogre, and you'll hear in a minute why, because it makes this noise when it flushes.
It kind of growls a little.
It sounds like a monster. It's quite fun. Also, you see all the rust, so I got a couple of wire brush or drill bit attachments and put them on, and we took off a bunch of the rust.
Oh, thank goodness.
So, we're solving problems left and right, but it was it took some creativity. So there it is. We've trimmed it off so it's short enough. We're going to adapt the flushing mechanism. We've managed to get this thing on, and I took it downstairs to see if there was a leak. No leak from there. But how do we get it onto the pipe? Because, of course, the pipe was ready for a different size. I mean, we could have started from scratch, I suppose, but we thought, let's try to reuse the pipe. We couldn't afford to lose much length, so we had to try to chisel off that glued on connection, which actually came off pretty good. You'll see here. Yeah, snapped right off there.
Nice.
And I tried to attach them. Now I thought I could just use some, I believe they call it coal. Is that what they call it in France? Just some ABS adhesive, some PVC adhesive, and stick it in there because it was close, but it was not quite the right size. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to sand it and make it smaller. I probably went a little too much. So the good news is the basin here, I'm filling up with water. The basin doesn't leak.
Yep.
But we did run into a couple leaks coming into the pipe, which is a problem that we'll talk about. And of course, we had to figure out how to connect that lever to the red piece of toilet so that when you pulled it, it would lift. Originally, the big, huge weight would pull it all down, but now without that, the chain and the handle were so heavy that I had to wrap wire around it a whole bunch of times. Okay, so here we are. We're flushing. And yeah, there's the leak on the left. See it? So not perfect. So I just took some silicone and we siliconed the whole bottom, and that took care of it.
So many details for one little thing. So same thing. I used that Puma stone to get rid of all of this. No cleaners were really cutting it. So we used this and it worked really fast. Like 5 minutes, it was gone. Cool. It was impressive.
And by the way, we appreciate all your suggestions on YouTube. We saw them after we already finished it, but it was still thoughtful. Look at that. That looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to hear the toilet. Are you going to hear it? Okay, brace yourself. It's very frightening. I think it's coming. The ogre strikes. Okay, so the toilet was working.
Yep.
Happy day.
It's working.
Beautiful,
Shower's
beautiful
working.
character. Yeah, so it's time to put the shower in. Now, again, all these little showers are, some of them are 70 centimeters or 80, which is quite tight.
They're a little snug.
For modern people. And so we tried to build them a little wider. And just a simple way to do it, these bricks are about $1.50 maybe each. And so I just put them in there, a little construction adhesive, then we throw it. We used our cutoffs.
Yeah, from the other bathroom that we had done before. I just didn't want to have a ton of subway bevels all the way around. I just thought it would be a little cleaner. If we could use some of our marble cutoffs, they're just a little flatter, less grout.
Yeah,
worked out.
And there comes your shower. You talk a little bit about it at the end when you do the reveal, and you talk through some of the design. It was an interesting challenge because we had 3 sides, and you don't see that a lot because it's not very well supported. So we had to put in a couple braces up high. But all told, it holds water pretty well.
Yep.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
You're dealing with magnets and you're dealing with gravity, and it's always a bit dangerous, but coming together nicely. And I think in the next shot here, you're going to see, there's our IKEA water head, which has a small leak right where I'm going to point. Still got to figure that out.
That's too bad.
Yeah, but the shower works great. And onto the trim, which is always one of my favorite parts of a project.
I like trim too. Cleans up everything, makes everything feel nice and crisp and clean. So we got our trim, we gave it a coat of paint.
Yeah, you gave it a coat, and then I gave it another coat.
And then off we go.
Great little brush you had there.
Isn't that a good one?
That worked perfectly for the trim. It was a joy to use, honestly. Again, we're going into cement and bricks here. So normally you just use a little nail gun, and you pop them in. But here we used construction adhesive, and it actually worked quite well. Don't you love it? So clean, so clean. And of course, on the far side, we had a big, huge, long piece. So with the adhesive, that's a little rough since the wall's not flat.
Right.
So we had to prop some things up to hold it in. But yeah, all in all, that's good.
Yep.
And I believe then we moved on to some of the electronics. Electrics, as the British say, is that right?
I don't know.
Some of our electrical features.
Yep.
You found this light?
Yeah, we, I don't know when. We sometimes find great deals on lights, and I tend to snag them because I know there's going to be plenty of places to put them.
Yeah.
And this was a great old bronze one that we found, super heavy, by the way.
Yeah.
This was just a tiny little brocante find. I had a pair of those, and, once it got up there, it kind of felt like a pair of antlers, actually.
Yeah.
It kind of was fun.
I'm getting better at putting these things on a wall. That's so different with brick instead of wood. It's much more challenging, but you can get it done. So here we have the light up now. Oh boy, I'm feeling really proud about this too. Look at that nice conduit, electrical conduit. Remember, we don't have drywall, so you can't exactly go through the vacuum.
Yeah, it's all stone, guys,
there.
right? So you'd have to trench all of that,
Yeah.
and I wasn't really excited about that.
I mean, we probably could have trenched it, but we didn't.
No,
So-
and I figured we could make it work behind the mirror and things
Yeah,
like that.
it hides behind the mirror. So that's good news. Now we had a bit of an issue. So I got it in there. Everything was working great. Then all of a sudden I put the mirror in and saw a big spark.
Yeah.
You can see the wallpaper even got etched a
Char.
little bit. And so we blew power to pretty much the whole house. It was almost no power anywhere, it seemed like. And so I went downstairs. We have probably about 10 breakers in this house, and most of them are modern. And so I found the big one that was tripped, and then the area one that was tripped, and then there was a specific one. That's our old breaker you were just looking at. We still have a few circuits that are using those. And it was a little bit weird because they're tubes and it's not just like you're flicking a switch. And so I think what happened is, the connections aren't great on these old little guys, and I think that one was a bit long and it popped out. But we got it fixed and we were okay.
We inherited a few things in the old bathroom before we did the reno. They were some glass rods with these really pretty metal brackets. We were gonna pop one up. We don't need both of them right now. We had 2. So before Rob put them up, I thought it's time to shine the old things up. Aren't they pretty now? Look at that. Almost as good as new.
Beauty.
Lovely.
Very cool.
Before, after.
All right, that's nice and solid. Now, here's the hard part. You put this in, and the second one is always tricky because you don't know exactly where to go. And so finally I got smart, I got a hack. And I put a piece of duct tape under it. So then I could basically just put the other piece I could sit it on top and then poke a nail through and you can see exactly where it's supposed to go. So that's my little hack. It's been really helpful.
The very first time I saw this room, it was a disaster zone, and it was our first walkthrough through the house. And the real estate agent, actually on her side job, was plastering and learning architectural finishes. So I asked her a bunch of advice about what we should do because the walls were horrible and everything was a mess in there. And I remember thinking, one day this is going to be a super cute bathroom. And here we are. Are you ready? Originally in the room there, it was painted black, and we kept a lot of those black features. And there was old wallpaper that was kind of black with a gold bamboo pattern. I tried my hardest to find something that's like that and failed, that nothing could compare to how good it was. But we found something that I thought would be fun. It had a British vibe, in my opinion, in there. And so we ran with that. We both have British roots in our ancestral line. So we thought it would be fun, seeing as that's another destination our students get to go, to do a London bathroom. Let's go. We'll show you what we got. Okay, so in the room, there was a shower that walls cantilevered out. It was awful. So we had to keep it there. Every time you keep plumbing fixtures in the same places, it saves us money. So for goodness sakes, we definitely were going to do that. So we decided to go with an all glass shower. That way there's a little more light. We have one window in this room. This way the light can filter through and it doesn't, fill up the room, make it feel really tight. So in this way, it took a while to find a 3-sided glass shower that would stand up that we could install, but we did it. So we did keep a couple things in place. This is the original sink that was here. It's a little worse for the wear, but I kind of like him, so he's staying for now. We did get some new faucets at one point that are also staying, and the mirror and things like that that were there originally, we did take down. I wanted a bigger mirror that had a little more presence in the space, and of course a nice brocante sconce just for some extra light. In the ceiling, you'll see the black ceiling with the black trim, and another one of our bronze brocante finds of a chandelier. I think he looks fantastic against the contrast with the black ceiling. And I think we can not even remotely ignore the fact of my main jumping off point in this room, which not only was the black, but was the same color scheme of the gold and the camel and the black. And I went with my interpretation of sort of like a Burberry plaid wallpaper. I think that is definitely what takes care of business. I think that's definitely what takes care of business in this room, to pull the whole scheme together. It's that beautiful plaid of the black, the camel, and that little stitch of red that really pulls it all together. As you know, when you've watched us putting this up, it was a bit of a thing, trying to get it up on the wall, but we did it, and I'm excited about that. So the plaid I have always loved. I will never not like plaid. I wear a lot of it. And with that, I decided to pay an homage to the British monarchy and London in general. And at the time that I bought these, the Queen was still on her throne. Now she's passed and we're on to a king now. Sometimes it's the little details that make my heart happy. Do you notice how Queen Elizabeth's lipstick is that beautiful red? I did it on purpose so that you get to see this lovely little extra red detail in the wallpaper. And I just love when those two little things relate to each other. So with this shower, I knew I wanted to do something a little more custom and a little more interesting to make it feel like this is our shower in our house. So when we first were going to buy the house is called like Grifferaie, and we are awful at trying to say that, but with the students they sometimes call it the Griff. And so I wanted to do a little fun moment in the shower with black and white tile that says La Griff. And it's just sort of a fun little moment that's cool for us to hang out with. We also kept the old, what I would call British toilet. We don't have these kind that we use a lot in North America. It has this beautiful old Paris porcelain handle. Rob's nicknamed it the Ogre because it has quite the flush. So I think that's gonna be, oh, we're gonna listen to it. Here we go. One of the other tile details that I decided to put in here is the subway tile you'll see on the bottom half of the wall. It is not only inexpensive, easy to install, but also, of course, it always gives me the vibe of the whole metro feeling. And of course, London Metro, whoever Metro, New York Metro, Paris Metro, they all have a ton of this amazing beveled subway tile, and I thought that would be perfect for in this room with our color scheme. One last thing that we did keep in retain, we had the toilet, we had the sink, is this glass towel rod. I think he's fantastic. You can't tell he's glass because we would call it like milk glass in North America. I don't know if it has a name in Europe, but it's definitely glass, and I love that we got to keep that and repurpose it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the London bathroom.
Thanks for coming on our little British reno adventure.
Yeah, we hope you've enjoyed it. By the way, this is our third bathroom we've done. We have two other videos. One, the Rose bathroom, and the other, the main floor ensuite. So feel free to check those out as well. Thanks for coming.